Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Mo Money, the investing show for millennials by a millennial, where our goal is to educate, entertain, and empower a new generation of investors. I am, of course, the host who's smoother than warm butter on hot toast, MC Mo. We are T-minus 3 weeks until Trump presidency begins, and he is close to filling all of his cabinet positions. Most of them are stupid and leave you wondering more of why does this position even exist as opposed to why did he pick this person. But this is the situation that we are in. He has basically picked the monsters of rich billionaires, all who donated heavily to his campaign. But there has been one small sliver of a silver lining in this shitstorm that is the inevitable Trump presidency. Last week, Trump announced that Carl Icahn would be a special advisor on regulatory issues during his presidency. So Icahn won't really hold an official position, he won't receive any pay, but he will be Trump's right-hand man on regulatory issues, as he was for Trump on economic issues during his presidential campaign. Now, you may not know who Carl Icahn is, but if you're a fan of the show, you've known Carl Icahn all along. This is the great Carl Icahn, the man Time magazine named in 2013 Master of the Universe, or as he is more affectionately known in the financial world, Uncle Carl. Carl Icahn was raised in Far Rockaway, Queens. Carl has said about the neighborhood that those were some mean streets, and in the words of Jay-Z, shit is wicked on these mean streets, none of my friends speak, we all trying to win. And from a young age, Carl Icahn was born to win. His mother was a school teacher, his father was a failed opera singer turned lawyer. Icahn was a smart and motivated student. His senior year, against the advice of his teachers, Icahn applied to 3 Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, and Princeton. Icahn got into all 3 of them, thus proving what has become sort of a common theme in the life of Icahn. He knows better than the supposed experts. In the end, Icahn chose Princeton. His dad agreed to pay tuition on what little money that he had. Yes, back in the 1950s, one's father could send their kid to an Ivy League school on some saved up money, even if they were from a poor neighborhood. The only catch was Icahn would be forced to cover room, board, food, and other expenses. So Icahn got a job at a local cabana club to make money, which he did, but not so much from the club. He was invited to play poker with some of the club's owners, and they cleaned him out of all of his money. So after that, Icahn read a few books on poker, something his opponents had never thought to do. And soon Icahn turned the tables on them and was making a good amount of money with this side hustle. More than enough to cover his expenses. Investigation and knowledge of a topic has always been a strategy of Icahn to destroy his opponents. Fast forward, Icahn graduates from Princeton, goes to NYU Medical School, realizes that he hates dead bodies and sick people, he's a pretty big germ freak, and he quit on the spot in the hospital. He walked down the street and he joined the reserves. Then in 1961, his Wall Street career began at Dreyfus & Co. as a stockbroker. Between then and 1968, Icahn bounced around from a couple companies before forming Icahn & Co. This is where he began to pursue the strategy that would make him billions in the stock market. The strategy was simple and one that some of the best investors of all time, from Ben Graham to Warren Buffett, have all used, called value investing. This is when an investor looks at a company, the fundamentals of the company, the revenues, the assets, all that financial hoo-ha, and calculates what they believe the price of the stock should be. If the price they believe this company is worth is substantially greater than the current stock price, then they buy the hell out of it. But there is one small difference between the Buffetts of Wall Street and the Icahns. While Buffett sits in his office drinking Coca-Cola and eating candy like he's a goddamn 8-year-old, Icahn buys up a controlling stake of a company to make changes that he sees fit. See, Icahn is a smart man, but he's also incredibly brash and incredibly competitive. And if you see his successes, you understand why. When Icahn sees a company that has everything going for it, but the stock price doesn't reflect that, he asks, what the heck is going wrong? And most of the time, the answer is management, aka CEOs and members of the board who are either too stupid or too complacent to make the changes necessary. Icahn, although a billionaire, is not exactly a guy who is loved by corporate America. He is feared by them. Like Sonny said in A Bronx Tale, it's better to be feared than loved. Fear lasts longer. If he sees an opportunity to make money, he will be kicking in the door, waving the S4, breaking up these board of director frat boy clubs, and removing the CEO, who most likely lucked his ass into that position with connections anyhow. Plain and simple, that is his strategy. Buy up enough shares of a company that the board of directors cannot ignore you, then start making demands and shaking up the company. The man has been doing this since the 70s, and he's a multi-billionaire because of it. This tactic was given the unaffectionate name of a corporate raider, which sounds pretty badass to me. The moment that launched Icahn into national headlines was his takeover of the company Trans World Airlines, an airline that was heavily in debt, losing money, and highly unliked. Icahn's favorite. So he bought shares of the company, took it private, then sold its most popular London route to another airline. Then the company went into temporary bankruptcy, but Icahn still walked away with a huge profit. That entire situation was the premise for the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas. Even when Carl Icahn loses, most of the time he wins. He launched takeover attacks on companies like Time Warner Cable, Phillips Petroleum, Marshall Fields, Texaco, Nabisco, all of which he failed to successfully take over, but some companies simply bribed him to leave them the hell alone. AKA the companies agreed to buy the shares that he purchased at a higher price if he agreed to just go away and never come back. Most recently though, Icahn positions have been credited with pushing eBay to spin off PayPal, getting Apple to buy back its stock, and making $1 billion in one day after selling his Netflix position. These days, Icahn is less of a corporate raider and now referred to affectionately as the euphemism activist investor, which means his end goal is the same, unlocking maximum potential of a stock for its shareholders, but his tactics are a little nicer. At the end of the day, it's Icahn's job to make money. He doesn't do it for the money, he does it because he likes to win. When his investment returns $1 billion, he doesn't see boats, cars, houses, clothes, and all that stuff. He sees a billion reasons why he was right. And luckily on Wall Street, when you're right, the money comes. At the end of the day, that's an impressive career that has earned him the title as one of the greatest investors of all time. But why now is Icahn dipping his toes in the waters of politics? He's always donated to campaigns a little, mostly Republicans, some Democrats, but now he is really starting to bring that Icahn lift to politics. Earlier this year, he opened a $150 million super PAC to force Congress to discuss reforms on business policies. In September 2015, Icahn released a short 15-minute video titled Danger Ahead, outlining all the things he felt were wrong with this economy. Even all the way back then, Icahn was endorsing Trump as the man for the job. And Icahn put his money on the right horse. Icahn and Trump have known each other since the 80s. They've done deals before, especially in Atlantic City. Trump admires Icahn greatly, calling him one of the best businessmen in the world. Icahn came to Trump's rescue a few times when his Atlantic City hotels were suffering under crushing debt and the bondholder sharks were circling Trump's bloody corpse in the water. Icahn is a strategist, and what he wants out of the Trump presidency is very simple. First thing he wants is regulations to be eased. Regulations are not simply just rules that a company has to follow and that's it. They require a lot of money and take a lot of time, which Icahn feels is a complete waste of a company's power and productivity. You have to file the right forms and do things the exact way the rule states or risk being penalized for not following regulation. You also have to hire people in your legal department, tax department, etc. to make sure that all these new regulations are being properly followed. And that costs companies more money, thus making it tougher for the smaller companies to compete with the larger ones. The two sectors that he mentions in particular that are under heavy burden are energy and financial, which I'm sure uncoincidentally are the two sectors that Icahn has his largest investment stakes. He is not against all regulation. He believes Dodd-Frank should not be repealed, but he believes the Obama regulations are absurd and overbearing and that he will be sure to advise Donald Trump on practical regulations that free the burden for the economy without damaging the country. Another big topic has been tax reform. Icahn has said that this is one of the most daunting and pressing issues for the economy. Not only does the United States have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, it is one of the only countries to have a repatriation tax. There is $2 trillion of U.S. corporations' money sitting in bank accounts not in the United States. So when a U.S. company makes money selling products in China, Europe, South America, they have to pay that country's corporate tax rate. If they want to bring those after-tax profits to the United States to reinvest that money here, they have to pay another tax, 35% just to bring that money back. They're being double taxed, which is ludicrous. All this money sitting in other countries when it could be here helping us. U.S. productivity is as low as it's ever been during the Obama years. Machinery is old, land is old, workers are underskilled, everything is old because our companies are not investing in themselves. Icahn blames CEOs for this, for choosing to financially engineer earnings to boost their stocks instead of reinvesting in their companies. Which brings us to number 3, the Federal Reserve. Icahn rarely calls them out by name, but he does blame our current economic situation, low growth, low productivity, massive borrowing, on zero interest rates. And who sets interest rates? The Federal Reserve. Icahn warns that this massive borrowing by companies for little to no cost just causes bubbles and problems. And he said he's been around a long time and he has seen them. 69, 74, 79, 87, 2000, 2008. He knows this cannot be sustained. Rates need to be raised. Trump has had no problem going after Fed Chair Yellen, saying that she should be ashamed, and with Trump in power, there is bound to be a shakeup at the Fed. Bottom line, I may be incredibly biased here as a huge Carl Icahn fan. I mean, how many people have a poster of this man in their home? I'm gonna guess I may be the only one in all of New York City. But he is a man who cares about this country. He has said that flat out, that he is worried and he has felt compelled to do something. A man who has 80 years of wisdom. He has seen the best of times and the worst of times. He knows what works, especially in business, and things haven't been been working out. You may say he is just a greedy bastard using political friends to make a profit, but with a government so large in presence in nearly every facet of America, it's nearly impossible for there not to be some type of conflict of interest. I am the opposite of thrilled for a Trump presidency, but as someone who has been a fan of Carl Icahn for a while, it's comforting to know that amongst all the buffoons Trump has surrounded himself with, both with his cabinet and his advisors, there will be at least one intelligent and rational voice speaking into the ear of that giant orange doofus. So here's to the great Carl Icahn. Godspeed, Uncle Carl. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Mo Money. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Like me on Facebook. I'll see you next year. Mo Money, signing out. Just a young kid thinking that life ain't fair, but I was mad cool with Biggie, so I ain't